decades of hoping. It's nice to be here at all. They didn't see us coming, but we can make it alone. Let's just believe until we have to go home.
Morning folks, welcome back to the Euro Breakfast, 3rd edition. I have woken up on a Saturday at 9 o'clock, your eyes don't deceive you. I know it's a bit unusual. It's the same with these boys, because these guys aren't used to getting up at this time either. Join me today, it's a bit of a Talking Scottish Football takeover. So before I start by introducing these two, if you're not following the guys on YouTube, getting subscribed to them, get it done, because best Scottish football podcast going, in my opinion, right now.
I love that.
There's a bold assertion to get started. But firstly, on my immediate right, Ryan118, how you doing, my friend?
I'm absolutely buzzing, mate. I mean, as you said, no used to being up at this time, so I'm just trying my best to keep the eyes pinned open, but a pleasure to be joined, mate.
And down below us is only Kevin Nisbet's biggest fan, David Buick. How are you?
Yes. I want it, mate. I've got a poster of Kevin Nisbet on the wall behind me, incidentally. I'm almost 22 and I've got posters of men scattered around on the wall behind me everywhere, so, you know.
Can't say nothing, mate. I've got a pub button that I've nicked. Just
for, I think Ryan might be borderline hungover here, but he's not going to admit to it.
Oh, on the bus here.
Borderline.
Right, okay, I'll give you that. Maybe, to an extent.
I mean, we've got an excuse. It's just been the first game of the Euros, right? You've got to get the cans out and get going on it. Just say. Talking of which, we'll cover it, obviously. So Italy beat Turkey 3-0 for anyone that somehow didn't watch it that's in here this morning. Where have you been? And we'll get into the day's games as well. But let's start off with just the game itself. I guess it was a bit of a non-event, wasn't it? It was total control for Italy and it was never in doubt.
Yeah, I thought so. I was really underwhelmed by Turkey because there's been lots of talk about them being a real dark horse at this tournament, and it never really came to fruition last night at all. They didn't really land a glove on Italy at all. It was quite, I watched that game last night and I thought I'd quite fancy Scotland playing Turkey because I didn't think they were up to much at all. And as you said, I'm not even going to rise to that comment, but as you said, Italy were in complete control. They look like real outsiders. Well, maybe not outsiders now after that performance, but they'll fancy themselves to go the whole way, I think.
There was a point in the game where I was thinking to myself, Andrea Bocelli could be the best part here. I loved that opening ceremony. I was like, you know what, that's the top of the tournament for me.
I mean, his opening ceremony's goal was pretty good, wasn't it? Even if he includes the shooting star's wonderful car coming back to bring the ball on for the kick-off. Somebody hadn't put the battery in it, apparently, as well. Yeah. It was struggling to get going, but
see the memes that are coming for that, by the way, like with that wee motor, they're absolutely fantastic. Some of them are just absolutely great.
Khabib's wee nephew driving it about, that was what I quite enjoyed seeing on Twitter last night.
Wee Hezbollah.
Yeah.
The one I saw was Insigne standing beside it as if he was about to get in.
That was good.
But I guess, kind of looking at Italy, they just totally dominated possession. Like, they can play against any team that way, can't they? So I know a lot of folk have pegged them as dark horses. I don't even know if they're dark horses on that form. I think they're just contenders, full stop, if they keep going.
Well, Roberto Mancini's came in, he's been there for the last 2 years now. He came in after they failed to qualify for the World Cup and he's just transformed them. His team are brilliant, and that's what I said in my kind of predictions videos. Like, you can look at Italy as dark horses because, they've not been quite the same since maybe 2012 when they got to that final. Just not been that great. They need a bit of national pride back.
Yeah.
But last night's performance was... I mean, you looked at this, there was a point, I think, in the 85th minute, something like that. It was 24 chances for Italy, 1 chance for Turkey. When they're playing like that, you can kind of take away the dark horse label and just say, all right, let's hold on here. This is a team who could genuinely just win it because they're that good.
Yeah, I loved watching them. Like, I know some folk were a bit bored with it because there wasn't much of a contest going on, but it was the little things. The way Italy play, they didn't need to be that aggressive. They never are that aggressive, but Mancini obviously wants to go and get them scoring goals, even if they're 1-2-0 up. So Insigne and Immobile up front, there was a few guys that had cracking games. Even Jorginho looked a class above, but on the flip side, I think Turkey's midfield were just posted missing the whole night, weren't they?
Yeah, they couldn't get close to them. The thing about Italy is, and it's a good point you make about them not being overly aggressive and stuff, I still feel like they've got gears to go into. I think there's more to come from that team. They didn't really need to get out of second gear. And again, it could have been more as well. And Insigne had a chance in the first half where that one where he tries to bend it into the far corner, he found his range in the second half. But I mean, Ryan made a good point there about 2012. Obviously, they did well. Since then, they've been a little bit, all over the shop. Now they seem to have that right blend of experience and youth. Whereas before, they've kind of had either an aging squad or maybe not quite a squad that's in their peak. I mean, Immobile is a good shout for top scorer, I think, in this tournament, and a good start he made last night.
Yeah, I kind of bottled it last night. I was going to put him on for Golden Boot and I put Mbappe instead, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, he had decent odds, about 20-1. I mean, that's worth a fiver as well. I didn't even notice it.
On. Yeah, Mbappe was 10-1 I managed to get, so it's not too bad, but
not the worst.
I kind of wish I'd gone for the 20s now.
Big money.
Right. What's your thoughts on Turkey then? Because like the first couple of these I've done, people have said both times they're the dark horses, and I've quite fancied the look of them. They've been in great form, but they just didn't turn up full stop last night. I mean, I don't know if it was just me, but they looked really flustered, like on possession in the midfield. It was like watching, here's an appropriate reference, a championship team playing a premiership team.
Aye, they looked like vastly unprepared for the tournament last night, which was a bit of a shock. I don't know if they were expecting a bit of a lesser game and a lesser quality from the opponent, but it gave me that sort of vibe. My immediate thought after the game was, and I put this on Twitter as well, I was like, I wouldn't read too much into Turkey from just this one result. I feel like that is a kind of squad that will bounce back. They've got the quality to bounce back. But it's certainly a big wake-up call for them. They need to learn from it because, as you said, they looked, I think David that might have been said this, they looked a bit dead in their feet and such at times. I just feel like the next game, they need that immediate bounce back. But they still have the quality to go and give us a big performance against the other teams in the group.
Good point there for Ken. You're in trouble when Chiellini's overlapping on you.
So somebody tweeted he's been about 36 for about 10 years now, and it's such a great point. It's like, how is he still going?
They looked knackered after an hour, never mind 90 minutes.
They didn't look like they would even got going at all. And we mentioned there about Italy not having to get out of second gear, but they never had to. Turkey made it, they were so passive in everything they did. I think they might still get out that group. There's obviously still games left. But they're going to need a real upturn in performance to get out of that group because, the European Championship, every team should be bang up for it, should be high intensity. And that was really underwhelming for me last night. If that was Scotland that played that way against Italy last night, I'd be really, really annoyed because I just thought it was so passive, didn't show enough desire, And the basic thing you need to do at an international tournament is show a level of effort, desire and commitment. I don't think we did that, so...
Don't even talk that into existence. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Right. It's probably an appropriate point to move on to talk to today's games. And Wales-Switzerland is the first one for the same group. If you're a Welshman watching that last night, you're not scared of Turkey, are you? So
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I still think today's a must-win game for them, though. Considering you don't expect anything off Italy, you're looking for 3 or 4 points to give yourself a chance, a third place at worst, to get through. Swiss aren't they exactly an easy team, but they're definitely beatable.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's so Turkey, I think, and Wales will think that. I think I get what you're saying, and I think it's a little bit similar to Scotland's situation. Everyone seems to think we have to beat the Czechs on Monday, but again, if we say we get a point on Monday, I still think we've got a chance of getting 3 in one of the other two. It could happen. Wales, I think it's even more likely. I think if Wales get a point today, knowing they still have to play Turkey, if Wales turn up like we know they can do, if Bale's on form, they could probably take 3 points from Turkey as well. But again, for Wales to replicate 2016, I can't really see that happening. I think if they get out the group, that will be a good achievement. And it'll be interesting to see where they are today because you just get the feeling that tournament football kind of suits them. They seem to be a sort of well-knit group. But it'll be interesting to see how they get off to a good start because I think a lot of people have kind of written Wales off this time round.
What do you think, Nick?
I admire the Welsh optimism that's still radiating around this tournament. I was listening to Sky Sports and that yesterday, and I had a lot of the Welsh guys on, and they're still very much up for this tournament. There's no sense of a kind of underdog feeling about them. They're really bang up for it, which is weird because I've been sitting here kind of writing them off. I was like, bottom of the group, and I feel kind of bad for that. I think I've just been like, all right, there's only one home nation this tournament that's got to be flying to the next round. But no, this is going to be an interesting game because suddenly the eyes light up, I think, now for the Welsh. They see Turkey not being as great last night. So a big performance for them against Switzerland. But I'm looking around at the squad just now for Switzerland. It's not going to be easy. There's a lot of good players in there. Of course, the main man, Xherdan Shaqiri, Bielan Bolo. They've got some good young and some good experienced talent. I think it's one of those games that will set the tone for Wales, like maybe it has already for Turkey in some eyes. If Wales can go out and get a win tonight, and then or today, that could really send them on their way already to the knockout stages, because they can fancy themselves against Turkey now.
I mean, another wee bit of bait there for Dave in the.
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting next season. We'll see, because obviously Falkirk will be playing Dunfermline in the league next season after they got promoted last year. So, what do you mean they bottled it? They bottled it.
That's amazing. That's amazing, David. Well done.
There's a reason we never saw Shove in this chat for about a month. But I do feel sorry for Wales, because I was speaking to one of the boys last night, and we were kind of remarking how obviously we're at Hampden, England have got Wembley, and they're parked off the Baku for their side of things. So,
imagine you had the situation where you could get fans in the stadium, like a full house stadium, and we're just partying up here and down the road, and the same with English, and then they're having to go away to Azerbaijan where you can barely even get a drink, I think.
But
you can definitely get a drink in Azerbaijan. Here's a wee cool story about Baku. So my dad used to work over there for about 9 months. He worked over there, managed a hotel over there, and you can definitely get a drink over there, let me reassure you. The amount of times he'd turn up in some Irish bar because he had nowhere else to go and he'd be absolutely bladdered. So you can definitely get a drink over there.
There's a point. This chat is full of fisherman Bennett, I've noticed. But the Swiss are really solid. They're just, other than Shaqiri, they've not really got anyone that exciting in there, though, I'd say. Mbolo's probably the only other one that's a bit, a maverick, for lack of a better word. But
some respect on what's his name, Granit Xhaka, please. What a player!
I mean, if you're looking for a boy who's going to sit deep, find a pass every so often, and find a red card every so often, absolutely. But
find a pass to the opposition, I think, with Granit Xhaka.
But I don't see the Swiss doing that well at this tournament, I'll be honest. Maybe I'm just being one of these kind of casuals that's overlooking the fact they've got loads of grafters, but they just don't seem to have much of a creative spark there.
I mean, Shaqiri's obviously a good player, and he did well in 2018, I think, at the World Cup, if I remember rightly. But he's hardly kicked a ball for Liverpool all season long. So, and he's not the type that's naturally fit either. He kind of one that takes games to get going. So we shall see how he does. I think, very much he's got a bit of freedom in that squad. They rely on him, similar to the way Wales do with Bale, I suppose. But again, that's quite an interesting matchup, because there's two players there who are obviously fantastically talented. We know that they can both do. They've both done it at tournaments before, but both aren't exactly flying at club level for one reason or another. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of them, if either, turn up.
Keep an eye out for the Gladbach boys. They'll surprise you. There's some good players in there. I think they've got 3 or 4 players that play for Borussia Mönchengladbach, and they're very good players. I'm looking forward to seeing them. But I think you're right in what you're saying. They don't really. They've got Big Kevin and Babu as well, another good player. But I see what you're saying about the kind of creative player. I don't know if they've maybe got somebody who can. You look at Wales, for example, we've got a Gareth Bale, and I know he's just levels beyond a lot of people. But Switzerland, I don't know if they've got quite that player who can kind of grab the game by the scruff of the neck and take it somewhere. If Shaqiri decides to, he can. But as David said, he's barely kicked the ball.
I think Wales, they've still got a couple other boys. Aaron Ramsey's more than capable of being a creative force. They've got Davy Brooks as well, so there's a couple of guys in there that have got a bit of a spark. But it might just be me, as I say, being a bit of a casual, but I feel like the thing with the Swiss is their defence is rock solid. There's not a weakness in there, keeper or defence wise. Wales, there's maybe a slight question mark.
Yeah,
possibly.
Definitely. Yeah, another thing, just quickly before we talk about the defence, Bale and Ramsey mentioned, in 2016, they were both at the peak of their powers. You think, Bale was absolutely flying for Madrid at the time. Ramsey was in that period where he was scoring FA Cup final winners every season. They were both absolutely flying. Now they're both, obviously still talented players, but they're not quite at that peak level they were. So whether they can drag the team through, I'm not so sure. Also, why is Christian Doidge not getting a call-up? Any Hibs fans in here will be thinking exactly the same. But I'm looking at their striking options. Surely he's worth a chance up front, you would have thought, based on what they've got.
I would have thought he's better than Kiefer Moore, surely.
I would have thought so, personally.
Yep.
He scored goals as well, so...
You kind of got to feel sorry for him a wee bit when you look at the fact that basically they're using Bale as a striker, but they've still only got 3 strikers. Tyler Roberts isn't even an out-and-out striker. So... Yeah.
I mean, for him, for Nisbet going and Doidge not going, he must be raging at that.
Well, he might not be. Baku's a bit of a journey away, isn't
I
it? So,
suppose.
but right, before we move on, predictions on this one. What do we think?
Oh,
Well, here's the thing. We've already given predictions for all these games in previous videos, and I always forget which way I've gone. So I'm going to try and remember what I've predicted here. I think I went with a draw, but I'm actually going to change it up and go with Wales, because I fancy Wales.
oh. Right, I'm going to go on the reverse side. I'm going to say Switzerland, but I don't think it'll be a like, kind of an encouraging win by any stretch of the imagination. I think it may be a bit of a slug for both teams. I'm going to go for Switzerland, though.
Yeah, I'm verging on Switzerland as well, I think. Them are a draw. I don't see Wales winning it. Question there for you from the Dawn. Should Itten and Ayeti be anywhere near that Switzerland squad?
Well, I don't know if Ayeti has completed his journey to match fitness yet, the same one that Lee Griffiths is on and every other member of the Celtic squad. So I don't know about Itten, but Ayeti might be struggling just a bit.
He's clearly taken on the mentorship of Lee Griffiths, hasn't he?
Yes, of course. That's it. The striker, they've got their own wee gang, the strikers. They're just a wee gang there up front that decide no to be fit. It's nice.
The McDonald's crew.
they did the runs for the McDonald's, aye.
But that brings us on to game 2, which is Denmark playing host to Finland. So a bit of a Nordic battle there.
Yeah.
I'll be honest about Finland. I don't really know much of their squad. Maybe know about half of it. Guys like, I'll let you pronounce the keeper ranks so you know how to do it properly.
I think it's Mr. Lukas Hradeski. I think that's how you
Oh,
pronounce
he'll love
his
this, by the way.
Nailed.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Nailed. But you've got him, obviously you've got Glenn Kamara, who we all know really well. Teemu Pukki. So there's quality in that Finland team, even though it's their first ever tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking. You know, I'm really. I always like to see. Normally, when Scotland are at these tournaments, you look for the guys that play in Scotland and how they're going to do. I'm actually intrigued to see how Glenn Kamara will do, because I think if he has a standout tournament, I think Rangers might face some offers for him. You know, come the end of it. So it will be interesting to see how he does. Finland are one of them teams. They're kind of I always think with internationals, you get teams full of great individuals, and you get great teams that maybe don't have the standout players. Finland, I think, are one of them. You know, they're obviously Teemu Pukki up front, who we know can score goals. It just kind of depends which Teemu Pukki you get. So no doubt they will be relying on him. But again, Denmark are a decent side, so I'm not entirely sure which way this game will go, to be honest.
I tell you what I love about Finland's squad right now as I look at it. I'm just looking through the squad to see if there's any more names that I
I know what's
recognise.
coming here.
And there's just two standouts. You've got Robert Taylor and you've got Daniel O'Shaughnessy. Very, very Finnish names there for those two guys. I love it. Daniel O'Shaughnessy.
I said that in our preview. I was looking through, and I think I hadn't seen his name before. I went, "Wait a minute, is he no Irish?" He is. He's half Irish, half Finnish. Apparently, is O'Shaughnessy.
They've also got Nico Hamalainen, who was at Kelly, so I'm amazed he's playing international football, to be honest, based on what I've seen of him. But there you go.
So there's a few names in there to learn. They seem to be the most likely to be a cold team that will do well. I think, like obviously when you had South Africa at the World Cup. With Shabalala,
let's not forget Iceland in 2016, of course.
Oh, let's not forget
that.
How could we forget
that?
I'd like to put them at above cult level because they achieved something. So
one of the greats, really one of the greats.
One of the greatest, absolutely. Moving on to Denmark, because they've got a really decent squad. I think like a lot of people are sleeping in them. I think they might do all right this time.
So we should have half an eye on Denmark because we're still to play them obviously in the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how they do. Obviously a decent team, a number of decent players. Again, I think you've got a good point. I think that they kind of fall into that same bracket as Turkey, in which they might do something special. I've had this thing all along that if France want to win the tournament, they'll probably win it. But below that, I think there's numerous teams that could fancy themselves if they get a run of form together. So Denmark might even be one of them. If they can get a good run in the group stages, who'll know what they'll be able to do. But I'm kind of looking forward to see them just because, so we still play them. So let's see what they're all about.
Denmark have one of the best midfield threes in the whole tournament, and I don't know if that's a controversial opinion or not, but I just look at Højbjerg, Thomas Delaney, and Christian Eriksen. That for me is one of the best midfield threes in the whole tournament. It's got the lovely balance between attacking
John
and defensive
McGinn,
talent.
Scott McTominay, Billy Gilmore.
But they've
It's
got
all
one
over
of the
it.
best midfield threes in the whole tournament. And then, of course, you've got the Barcelona star up front, Mr. Martin Braithwaite. So, you're looking at a team there that is just, got quality all round. They're a team that you're right, a lot of people are sleeping on. But at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of people saying, I've actually seen a few people saying they could get as far as the semi-final and the final by the way the kind of bracket runs. So
okay.
there's a team there that can certainly do some damage, yeah.
The only issue-
Dolberg and Poulsen up front as well. They've got numerous good options up front looking at that squad there, so it could be a real threat.
The only issue I've got with him is up front, because I feel like Dolberg flatters to deceive a lot of the time. He still goes off his reputation.
Maybe
but
that's FM that's making me praise him there, I don't know.
he's basically the next Lingard who's going to be the next big thing, even when he's 28.
Yeah.
Still
Like-
talking about him in FM as a wonder kid.
Aye. Even when he hits his 30s, he'll still be the ex-wonder kid, The Mark Kerr school, I thought, right there. But Martin Braithwaite's solid. Cornelius is a big target man option who's still all right. Poulsen's quite physical, but there's not really an out-and-out goal scorer there, is my worry with
yeah.
if they're going to get a chance, it's a half chance. They're not always going to take it. Whereas other teams have got, well, your Immobile is what we mentioned earlier on, who's going to finish. So
Denmark kind of remind me of Wales to an extent with that, because Gareth Bale, who isn't necessarily an all-out striker, is someone who they rely heavily on for their goals. For me here, I look at Christian Eriksen as a guy who could be very reliant on getting them goals, and once again, he's not really an all-out striker. You're looking at your set pieces, long-range efforts. If they get free kicks, Eriksen will be lapping them up. So it kind of reminds me of Wales to an extent in that sense.
aye, so there's another one for you, Dolberg, the Danish Lingard.
Get up
I'll,
in a t-shirt.
Even that Denmark defence, by the way, there's still some good defenders in there as well. So they're quite a
Spades.
well-balanced squad. And you mentioned there about not having an out-and-out striker that's going to bag the goals in. I think Scotland are a bit similar, really. I mean, we're relying
true,
on Adams,
yeah.
but we're not basing that off an awful lot so far. Our goals, you'd imagine, will come from the likes of McGinn, maybe Christie, guys like that, rather than solely relying on one of the strikers.
I mean, the only issue I think defensively is Christensen's not the most physical. So if you put him up against, like, for example, Lukaku, he's going to struggle. But Kjaer's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Obviously, Kasper Schmeichel's just a solid keeper, solid as a rock.
Vestergaard's a big boy, isn't he?
Big
It's not like he's
Vestergaard's a
6'1".
big boy. Aye. So, I think the Danish, I'm still going to say they're maybe flying under the radar a wee bit. They could do well.
There'll be a lot of eyes talking about that defence. Actually, I just realised just there that he's in the squad. A lot of eyes will be on big Joachim Andersen. There's been a lot of talk of him getting a big move from Fulham, obviously just being relegated. They have. David's right. I never even looked at it properly there. They've got an impressive set of defenders at that team. The big boys as well, as we said.
Aye. Well, here it's saying that apparently, like Leon and Sampdoria and so on, like who he's had previous with, have still been keeping tabs on him. So. We'll see.
Yeah.
I must admit, I've not seen much of him, in all honesty. So I'll rely on Ryan's insight.
I just remember hearing. I watched Scott Parker's film a few times because I like Scott Parker's film. I thought they were a good team. But I remember, like, when they were relegated, I think there was talk of Spurs looking to bring in Joachim Andersen. I think they were one of the teams that were linked with him at a point. So I certainly got a wee bit behind them.
So then, predictions on this one: Finland, Denmark. Who wins?
Denmark for me.
Denmark for me as well. I think it'd be daft to look past the Denmark win, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think we've got a full house there. That's
Full house.
potentially our
I
only
just
one.
hope we
of the
get
day.
a proper good game today, though, because I think last
Yeah.
night didn't really, it whet the appetite a bit, but I'm wanting a proper good game.
I want a good game, but at the same time, I am absolutely buzzing at the prospect of all these games today. Like, see the fact that we're here now and we've actually got the tournament and we're sitting here in the situation where we have 3 games on today. Oh, bliss.
Aye. And then starting tomorrow, we've got about 5 games a day because the Copa comes as well. So it's just it's glorious times.
Madness.
But by the way, David Buchanan totally disregarding Wales Switzerland is a decent game shocker there as well.
Well, listen, we'll see. But the funny thing is, I'm asking for all these games to be decent, but I mean, I'll quite happily take Scotland having 1-0. So I mean, that will do me. I'm all for Steve Clark's
It's
voting
like,
Scotland.
that's where the tone changes, isn't it? We're like, we don't care how you do it,
I don't
just
want
get it
goals
done.
in Scotland games because if we're going to win, it's going to be 1-0, 2-1. So
Aye,
that'll
keep
do
it
me.
tight. I'm happy with that. Obviously, we need to keep an eye on the goal difference if we might finish third as well, is the other thing. That's what will hurt Turkey potentially, losing 3-0 last night. Never mind. Keep it at 1 or
point.
2, you're not too bad. But let's move on then, because our final game of the day is Belgium-Russia, which I think's probably got potential to be the game of the day.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a very exciting. That's the one that could kind of spark up the entertainment for the start, like the kind of the opening couple of days of the tournament. Belgium is at a lot of people saying this is the last chance for the golden generation. I mean, they've got 2022 as well, but this is a big chance for Belgium now to kind of answer the critics and show how good they are. I know they made it to the semi-finals of the World Cup, but this is a team who, from even as early as 2014, I think people have been saying is a team that can go and win this tournament. So it's big for them. Russia aren't easy opponents, but Belgium are certainly going to be one of the most exciting teams to watch, I think, in the entire tournament.
I think Belgium are dangerously close to going down the same route as the England golden generation of the early to late 2000s, because they have been ranting and raved about for so long now, and they are yet to do it on the big stage. So this is, I mean, I said earlier, but I think France will do it. Belgium, if they're going to do it, this sounds like a good time for them. Again, 2022 is still there, but you've got guys like Alderweireld and Vertonghen who are really getting on a bit now, so whether they'll be around for that, I'm not so sure. Obviously Hazard and De Bruyne have had fitness issues, which is not what you want ahead of a tournament, but again, we'll see how they do, but I'm not holding out much hope for them to really do something this tournament. Whether they'll win today or not is a different matter. Depends what Russia you get, doesn't it? I mean, Russia in 2018 with that home crowd were just fantastic. Obviously Artem Dzyuba up front is an absolute nightmare to play against, so if he can drag them through, it'll be interesting. I do think that there'll be goals in that game, but yeah.
Yeah, I think there should be goals, because like Belgium's defence, as you say, is a wee bit old at this point.
Yeah.
So this probably is the final one that they'll keep that unit together. Even like Vermaelen, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Boyata's 30 as well.
Denier as well.
Denier.
Can't believe Big Boyata's there again, man. What a player.
I know.
What a player.
for all they're a fantastic squad, there's one or two players that make you go, really? Boyata's one of them.
Yep.
Christian Benteke is still getting into the Belgian squad as well, even though he's not really done much of late. I suspect you're probably not going to see much of him, in all honesty. Michy
He's
Batshuayi's a funny one.
definitely there into Benteke for the last 10 minutes. They're down 1-0. They just need to lump somebody on and hope for the
Just
goal.
fire him on.
Roy Hodgson is there in spirit as Roberto.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Martinez.
England took Andy Carroll in 2010 for that exact reason, I'm pretty sure. Just for the
pretty
last
much.
10 minutes.
But Batshuayi's a funny one because he's got a fantastic record of scoring goals.
I hope he kicks the ball at his own face again. That would be tremendous, to be
And
honest.
obviously he's meme worthy, which is great
I
for us.
forgot that happened. That's unlocked a memory.
I just can't wait for all these wee moments you get in these tournaments. I mean, I said it yesterday.
Like
We've already got the French squad falling out, which is straight away off the
Standard,
checklist on
yeah.
what you need at a major tournament. So,
Like,
hopefully more things will come.
we need a moment like the Iran throw-in. Remember they done the
Oh, yeah.
the throw-in.
Rolling.
Aye. We need something like that again.
I think Finland's probably the most likely to give us something unexpected.
Have Hungary still got that goalie that wears the joggies? Is that still a thing?
I
He's
don't
about
know
50
actually.
by now, is he not?
I mean,
Gabor
all we
Kirai.
need. If we're talking about cult figures and old guys playing at this tournament, there's only one you have to. I know we're a bit early for this, but Goran Pandev. Let's come on. That's the man that you wanted. That's the man you're talking about there.
There is a lot of Pandev love in this chat, I can tell you that.
Oh,
'Cause,
I love Pandev.
Yeah, your man for Falkirk is a big Pandev fan. But when I'm looking at this one, I think Russia are very kind of heavily reliant on Dzyuba, he's a wee bit out there as a guy, never mind as a footballer. Like those of you will remember the last World Cup, he's basically a big massive beanpole that he's like Tyson Fury in a football pitch, is the way I put it the last time I spoke about him. And he's like Tyson Fury off the pitch as well, because he says all sorts of controversial stuff.
He's a bit mad, isn't he? Yeah.
I think he also got a suspension at some point for having some kind of bunga party, but we'll move on for that swiftly.
I was told this morning there was a controversial video involving him. I don't know if you ever heard about that. But
I believe adult was the category.
Yeah, I didn't need to see that this morning, but I was shown.
Oh, did you watch it?
Well, I didn't know what it was, and I just kind of clicked on it, and I thought, oh, Jesus Christ.
So what's your rating out of 10?
It put me off my breakfast. You know, yeah.
There is your Euros moment, David.
Let's just move it on. I'm going to hijacking your show a little bit, but that Russian squad you mentioned, Dzyuba obviously is a standout, but two players in 2018 that I thought were amazing. Alexander Golovin is fantastic, and also Denis Cheryshev was fantastic in 2018. So if those two can turn on the style, then there might be a bit of a chance for Russia to do something.
Yeah, I
Ryan's
quite
camera
like
went
Cheryshev,
off.
I must admit. Yeah, Ryan's camera will do that every 15 minutes. Don't worry about it. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, Cheryshev's good.
And Golovan's quite a creative player, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I'd be lying if I said I'd seen much of him the last season, but he's the kind of guy you need in this tournament. That you need a spark coming from midfield going forward. Given that they've not got much up front behind Juba, you probably need somebody like Golovin to lean on. Defensively, they seem pretty solid as well. So
Is Igor Akinfeev still kicking a ball?
No, he's gone. He's out of the squad. I was
He's
going
finished.
to open that up with a show. It's like it's not a Russia squad without Igor Akinfeev. I can't believe he's no in the squad. He was about for years as well, man.
He was.
talking of Football Manager legends there.
I know. Aye.
But I think I'm just double checking. It's Anton Schunen that they've got listed here as our number one keeper, who's 34, so he's no spring chicken himself for Dynamo Moscow.
He's been waiting for Akinfeev to retire. He's just been sitting there, tournament after tournament, week after week. Like, come on.
Let me start one tournament.
It's a lot like the Scottish goalies. They're all kind of the same age, and they're never going to get a run when one of them's in front of the other. So
Mad that I didn't realise till yesterday, I think it was, that Craig Gordon's the second oldest player at the tournament.
yeah.
He is,
tournament.
which
That's
is
mad,
wild.
Looking good for it too.
But then,
And
to
some
be
big
fair,
fella.
I know I'm going totally off track here, but the thing that really surprised me with the Scotland squad is Declan Gallagher's the oldest outfield player. There's barely anyone at 30.
Is he?
So
Wow.
it's a really young squad we've got.
So this is the thing that because I always think about it, because we don't actually have if you take Billy Gilmore and David Turnbull and Nathan Patterson out there, who were kind of the additional picks. Above that, there's nobody that young that was a regular. Like, I mean, Nesbitt's 24. I think he might have been the joint youngest, maybe with like an Adams or something like that. So we've got players that are in a great age bracket for the next 2-3 tournaments.
But before we get into Scotland, because we will get into Scotland chat, it's the way this was always going to go. What are we predicting? Belgium, Russia? I think
I'm going controversial. I'm going the draw.
Ooh,
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. My opinion is if Romelu Lukaku turns up and has the tournament I'm expecting him to have, I think Belgium could put Russia to the slaughter. I really do. I'm going to go for a big Belgium win if Lukaku turns up.
I mean, their forward line is filthy when you look at the options they've got. Like, even Dries Mertens, those kind of players to throw in Carrasco, Chadley. Yeah, I can't see past Belgium. Like, as much as I say Russia looks solid enough in defence, they're solid, then there's coming up against that. And then on the hour mark when you're already knackered, we'll just fire on Batshuayi, who gets more than a goal every 2 games, just I can't see past them. But we've delayed it enough. We're going to end up talking Scotland anyway. Let's just get to it, shall we?
Where do we even start?
I should probably start with this, because there was a question for Ryan.
Oh,
If you had a time machine and Celtic had assigned Shane the best defender in Scotland, Duffy, or Goran Pandev, who would he sign?
Do you know what I was like that?
Pandev would have done a better job at centre half. I'm convinced.
Do you know what I love? I was like, I'm very excited to go on Mozza's Euro Breakfast live stream and talk about other football that isn't Celtic, talk about players I don't usually get the chance to talk about, and avoid Shane Duffy at all costs, and yet we have found a way to get Shane Duffy brought
You've
up
been
here.
given the option to go back in time and get Pandev instead. What can I say?
By the way, Shane Duffy, back-to-back man of the match performances in the friendlies for Republic
I
of Ireland.
noticed that. He's
One of
taken
the
his
greats.
money and he's got back
One of
to
the
form
greats.
now.
Yeah.
He really truly was Agent Duffy, wasn't he? He was sent here to do a task.
There's your answer, by the way, Wald. It is Pandev, who is the oldest player at the tournament. I think
right.
he's 39, is he?
39, I believe. Yeah,
Aye.
I think that's right. Aye.
Wald going for 3 draws. Malden,
wow.
Russia win the group is one of the boldest predictions I've
Bold
seen
claim.
so
No,
far, by the way.
I think Russia will surprise a few. I'm loving this. I really think they will. I think
Neither
Belgium will
Don's
win
just
it.
in a wind up. He's just admitted it.
No, I love it. I love the wind up, to be fair. I love it. Don't you worry, sir.
But aye, right, Scotland, how are we feeling about our chances?
Oh, we're getting through the group. I'm telling you. Listen, there's not a seed of doubt in my mind that we're getting through this group.
See, this is like this. I was watching that Mr. I don't know if any of you have watched it yet. Mr. Brown's Boys. It was on BBC the other
Aye,
night.
yeah, it's grand.
I watched it the other night, and it was brilliant. It was really good. So I've been under this illusion, as David is saying, that we're getting through the group. This is us getting through the group, and I'm like, how typical is it that we all think this and we're going to turn up and get battered in all 3 games? Like, it's just that would not be standing arms. We've just got our hopes up so high now for this just to get crushed.
My weird thing about this as well is everyone's saying that we need to beat the Czech Republic. I'm more worried about the Czech Republic than I am about Croatia in a weird kind of way. Because that game in November at Hampden, they absolutely battered us that night. You know, it was 1-0 in the end, Ryan Fraser scored, but they battered us. They're a really good side. I think Croatia, listen, Scotland's record against Croatia when they were flying is fantastic. Never mind now when they're kind of a few players aging. I think, I honestly just, in my head, at this moment in time, 9 points top of the group. No, I'm joking. But listen, the optimism I have just cannot be stopped. The only thing that's going to stop it is, as Ryan said, if we get pumped on Monday. But even then, we'll take 6 points for the last 2, so it doesn't matter.
I was going to say, even if we lose the first game, the beauty of this tournament
6
is
points,
you can get through with your 1 win and a draw. So
You can get through with 3 draws.
1-1. Yeah,
Yep.
that's true. Which has screwed us in the past. But I think Comedy Ray said it best. I saw him the other day. I think it was Off the Ball he was on maybe, and he said,
Yeah.
I feel unpatriotic because I'm not optimistic about it.
Yeah, no, it's weird, isn't it?
I
It is so
genuinely think
strange.
we are going to do all right this tournament, get through the groups at very minimal.
Listen, everyone's talking about dark horses and surprises. I think it's Scotland, I really do. We were saying this in our live show we did last night. I wonder if there are people around Europe and European countries that are looking at Scotland and saying they might do something, the same way that we're looking at some of the other countries and saying they could be quite good. I hope there's someone in like Denmark that's saying Scotland look decent, by the way, they could really do something. That would just make me really, really happy if we had that. But listen, the fact we're even in the conversation, I still have to pinch myself at times. You know, it's just so surreal. But it's just fantastic, isn't it?
Does Scotland get more or less than 30 seconds of coverage in the ITV build-up for Scotland?
Coisty will be there, so Coisty will force it.
Scott Brown's there. I don't know why, but Scott Brown's there. He'll be miserable, as he always
Insightful
is.
as ever.
I was watching it. To be fair, I was watching the BBC Match of the Day Euro preview show, and they actually, do you know what they've done well? Apart from Micah Richards bringing everything back to England somehow, which Gary Lineker actually pulled them up for. Yeah, they actually gave us some fair coverage, so let's see if ITV can do the same.
In fairness, they actually started last night, which really surprised me with Scotland and Wales before they got to England, which was nice. I also liked Robbie Savage going straight at the Tories as well. Notice we're in this tournament, you know.
Aye.
I quite enjoyed that. And Lineker going, move on swiftly.
And we'll swiftly move.
But the only issue I've got with us is up front, because I feel like Lyndon Dykes is probably going to start, and he's just no in form.
Do you think so?
Reason.
I'm not convinced. I think on Monday we'll see Christie off Adams. I really do.
I'd like
I
to
think
see
there's a
us
reason Christie wasn't
Yeah.
involved in the Luxembourg game. I think he's a player that needs a bit of a rest. And I think the fact that he didn't play in that makes me think he'll start. I think
I'm
Ryan
stuck in
Christie,
that.
I've said this for so long, I think he is so key to Steve Clark's Scotland. I think he's someone that Clark absolutely loves. You see it, we played Israel in the last round of qualifiers and he didn't play. He came on at half time and we were hopeless in the first half. He sets the tempo so well. I just think that, and Adams as well, this is a game for him. Wouldn't shock me if you saw Dykes against England, because I think that might suit him a bit better. But the fact we're even having this discussion about having different viable options to play up front for Scotland is mental.
It is glorious.
It's a weird one for me. I'm stuck in such a weird limbo between who I would start on Monday up front. I think that Adams is a cert. It's who plays beside him. I was under the impression, as David was saying, that it would be Christie. Then yesterday I was listening to James McFadden speak, and he was making a case for Dykes up front with him. And I was like, okay, maybe it will be Dykes. If I was to personally choose, I hope it's Christie, because I feel like he'll give us that something more, that spark that we need to try and win what should be the most winnable game of the group. No disrespect to the Czech Republic, but it should be for us.
Just by the way, Fraser started off Dykes when we beat the Czechs in November. So that's a combination we haven't even thought about. Ryan Fraser's there as well. James Forrest as well. Stuart Armstrong is also an option to play off the striker.
Armstrong played alright in the
options.
friendly as well as
Yeah.
the other thing. He looked pretty promising. The thing with Fraser is Fraser isn't fit, so I don't think he's going to start. And he's
Cracking
somebody
sub to have though, isn't he?
He's a
If you've got 20
fantastic
minutes to
sub.
go.
Yeah. The thing, like, you're looking at fitness and stuff. The other issue I've got is with McGregor, because the boy needs a rest. Like,
Doesn't play for me.
I just
don't
can't
think he
believe
should
that
play,
he
but I
actually.
think he will play.
I don't understand why he started against. Who
Luxembourg.
was the second?
No
Luxembourg.
need for that.
Why? Why did he start against Luxembourg? That made no sense. Not just because I feel like he's I don't know. It just made no sense.
Yeah.
None at all.
He was the worst player against the Netherlands, and it's not even down to his ability because we know how good he can be. He is just absolutely dead in his feet. The guy doesn't stop, and he needs a little bit of protection. He doesn't get it at club level. Now, I'm convinced, I'm the same as you, Mozza. I think he will start on Monday. I think it'll be McTominay, McGregor, and McGinn. Now, I'm 90% sure that will happen. But before the Luxembourg game, I was 100% sure. But I think Billy Gilmore will have put a little bit of doubt in Steve Clarke's mind just to show that he's more than capable to do it. And I would absolutely love it if Clarke went and took the gamble on him. I don't see it, but I would love it.
Here's your side note as well, because I've seen Jamie saying who would we take getting a red card for wiping out Souček.
Oh. Yeah, what was Souček? He made a bad one, didn't he? He had a bit of a
came out the
highlight,
other
didn't he?
day backing up Andre Sluska with the whole Glenn Kamara carry on. That's now 3 or 4 of the Czech squad that have done that. And because of that, I'd probably say that I'd rather enjoy beating them even more than England at this point. Because I feel like a lot, like they're just apologising for a racist. And there's no doubt. There's no doubt it happened. But they're still trying to say it didn't happen, and it really winds me up.
It's going to make the atmosphere really interesting as well, because I know for a fact that a lot of Czech fans who were supposed to travel have resold their tickets, and I know there's a lot of Scotland fans that have bought them up. So there will be more Scotland fans in there on Monday than there are probably supposed to be. So that will be very, very interesting, and it's something we haven't discussed yet. How will that impact the 2 home games? Because I think it'll have a massive impact.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll feel the pressure too much because it's not a full house. I think that might actually work in our favour, to be honest. But familiar surroundings, I think it works in our favour.
Yeah. See, even those moments where you're maybe under the cosh 5-10 minutes and you're needing a little bit of something, that extra gear to get you out of it, just having the crowd there will boost them on. I think that
how many?
Really
what is the actual attendance numbers they're talking?
12,000, is it?
12,000.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Until they change their minds again.
Jason Leach should be kicking yourself, man.
Yeah.
He's currently up on the ceiling, like beside himself. I saw he was worrying about the fan zone as well the other day.
Seen that.
The best tweet I've seen up in the run up to this was the one the other day on Twitter. Sturgeon set to miss the game, and I was like, I don't think he should have started anyway.
That was good. That was really good.
Tremendous.
Luckily for us, Lama, that's not a thing. With McBurney being injured,
thank God.
It wouldn't have surprised me. It genuinely wouldn't have surprised me if he'd played McBurney.
You know what's mad, right? Do you know what's really mad? I think that so we got those 3 extra inclusions. We had Patterson, Turnbull, and Gilmore. One of those guys would have probably missed out. I reckon he would have still took McBurney. I really do reckon he would have took him.
Yeah.
I think Steve Clarke would have been like, yeah, we'll take him just in case because he offers something different. And we would end up missing out one of the 3 guys.
I'm not that convinced because the last break he took Nisbet anyway, didn't he? So Nisbet came up in the last break. I think I'm not sure McBurney was in the squad, but certainly Nisbet got the game time. McBurney didn't. So I think already Nisbet had pushed himself in there.
I
think he's quite happy with his 3 strikers as they are. I don't think there's anybody really trapping on the door. The one person I actually think Callum Patterson would have been more likely because of his versatility than.
It wouldn't have surprised me to see Patterson in there as well. I mean, the only one that isn't in that I really wanted in was Ryan Gold. But
so I've seen you very much on this hype train. I'm kind of. Listen, I'm more than happy to see him get a chance, but I'm also not going to be one of them guys that hasn't watched him and pretends he has. Because I know you've seen a lot of him, but there are so many on Twitter who maybe have seen a couple of highlights packages and are giving it the big one. Now, I haven't seen the guy, so I'm not getting the hype train. I know he's done well, and I'd like to see him get a chance, but there is very much a lot of people getting on the hype train that haven't actually seen much of him.
He's had an outstanding season. The issue with him is he doesn't play a position that's in Steve Clarke's formation. So I kind of always thought he was going to be on the outside looking in, but as you say, I'm a hype man for him, so I was desperate, absolutely desperate for him to get in. Like, just some of the performance it was only against the big teams as well. Like, he was unbelievable against Sporting, almost like he had a chip on his shoulder for getting released by them.
Is he out of contract this summer? What's his situation?
He is. So basically, there's teams like Legia Warsaw are in for him, Braga are apparently in for him, so we'll see what he does, but I think he might stay in Portugal, to be honest with you.
If you were him, you absolutely would, because he's obviously tried his hand in Scotland a few times. It's not quite worked for him. He's obviously doing very well over there. And by the way, I think that's a great sign for loads of young Scottish players now. I'm enjoying it. I mean, Aaron Hickey's obviously gone away. Gilmore's gone
Jack Hedges changed his career, going abroad.
Exactly. Oh, he's a great example. Completely revitalised his whole career by doing that. So it takes balls to go and do it, and I'm glad it's paying off for him.
Just wait till Liam Morrison's starting for Bayern Munich in the next few years and he's winning the Bundesliga.
And we'll be on the World Cup train at that point. We're going to win the World
Cup. Exactly.
I think that's Dylan, by the way. If that is Dylan for Talk Lower League, welcome in, my man. Czech strikers, prepare yourself for a masterclass in pronunciations here.
Sir.
Mikhail Kremenchik, Thomas Peckhart, Patrick Schick, and Matej Vidra. Matej Vidra.
Big Matej Vidra, what a player, what a player. He's another one who I feel like has been about for about 20 years now, and he's no aged a bit. Like, I just remember his name all the time for back in the FM 12, never mind it. Like that. He's always been about. Patrick Schick though, good player. He could cause some damage. I like him a lot.
But as I think David mentioned already, there are a very decent side, that Czech side, when you look through the players they've got.
They're a big physical side too. That was what I noticed at Ham last time round.
So now that I'm looking at them, I think even more that Dykes is going to play. Having a look through their squad, their defence.
A bit of the physicality.
Aye. It wouldn't surprise me if he put Che Adams out in a wing though. So like Christie and Che kind of either side supporting Dykes up front. Like he's done that in a friendly already, hasn't he? So it's like a similar approach to the Holland game. Just get
there are some variations of this 3 at the back formation that he's done. I mean, at times he's played McGinn higher up, maybe to the right, and a Christie to the left, as you've mentioned. He might do that and just go with maybe McTominay and McGinn sitting. Might be a bit of a stretch. Maybe that's a bit too attacking, but there are definitely options there.
Yep.
I like that vote of confidence, Mal. Appreciate that.
You gotta love it.
We do best.
Man City saying Che Adams or Nisbet ahead of Dykes. I think a lot of folk kind of don't really get the thing with Dykes. He's not meant to be a goal scorer, out and out scoring all the time. He's a physical presence. He's going to hold the ball up and lay it off to more nimble players. That's why he's there. And I think he'll do well against England because he loves a battle and he'll not be scared of Tyrone Mings.
I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal against Serbia. I think people forget how good he was that night. I mean, he was unbelievable. And you talk about Tyrone Mings there. Talk about a defender that's a bit rash, makes mistakes, can be overly aggressive. That will suit Lyndon Dykes down to the ground. Now, even Harry Maguire, I know he's had a good season and all the rest of it, I still don't think he'd enjoy playing up against Lyndon Dykes because the Premier League defenders are not used to that anymore. There's hardly any of those players out there in the Premier League. I can't really think. I mean, Burnley's front two, maybe the only two that are similar. Like so Chris Wood and that can cause physical problems for these defenders. So it's going to be interesting to see how those defenders cope with it. And I certainly think that he will play in that game.
And I think Maguire's just come back for injury as well. So the last thing you want in your first game back, because he's not going to play England's first game, is Lyndon Dykes in your face just roughing you up. I've not signed up for this.
Elbows flying everywhere. I can't wait.
Exactly. It's like I feel like one sharp turn and you could leave somebody in the dust. And I know Lyndon Dykes isn't necessarily somebody who likes to take a sharp turn, but any sort of movement that's uncomfortable for Maguire, you want from Big Dykes. So
the best thing about Dykes is if he can hold it up. The best thing about the Scotland team is you've got so many in midfield who love to run beyond the striker. McGinn's brilliant at that. Christie's brilliant at that. McTominay does it for Man United. He bombs on and gets towards the edge of the box. And the wing backs as well. There are so many players that can go on beyond him that are going to cause England so many problems. I can't wait.
One of our centre backs bombs on. Tierney's basically a winger. So.
You've never seen the likes of it.
Right, here's a question for you. Slammers thrown in. How does the quality of this squad compare to France '98? Are Robertson and Tierney better than John Collins, Paul Lambert et al? I think there's definitely greater depth. I think that's the first thing to pick up Lama. We've never had this strength and depth in a squad, I don't think, in my years of watching Scotland anyway.
Yeah, I think that the last few years there's always been quality players that haven't quite made it as far as they should have. Obviously, McFadden's career, for example, came and gone and didn't make an international tournament appearance. We had great players on for that. We've had people like Barry Ferguson, Scott Brown, all these names that have passed through. But we've never had that depth. You're right, you always look to people coming off the bench for their squad and you're like, oh, dearie me, like, they were not great. The hardest part for me in terms of that question is obviously I never got to watch the 98 side. I wasn't born. I was still just a thought in the mind. So
Nice way to make me feel old.
So I was not here to quite judge it. So I don't know if I could speak honestly and realistically about comparing them in terms of the quality in the park and such. But in terms of depth, I would absolutely agree. I think we have got a better team now than what we have for a long time.
Yeah. What do you think, David?
There were some stars in that 98 team, no doubt. Lambert and Collins I mentioned. Obviously, Colin Hendry at the back was fantastic. But again, looking at the fringes of that squad, that's probably where we struggled. I think So, I mean, even up front, I think we saw them a little bit because I don't think McCoist didn't go. I think McCoist was left behind. I think he was. I heard something. He was quite upset about that at the time.
He was,
I know he was close to the end of his career, but
he was in the middle of moving from Rangers to Kilmarnock, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And he missed
so
out.
we didn't really have. Strength and depth. That's exactly the thing. Whereas now we've got it. Whether we've got as good players, I'm not sure. Again, you mentioned that team with McFadden and stuff, and this is something Mozza we talked about. So I'll get your thoughts on this. That team 2007 that was on the edge of qualifying for the Euros, that beat France home and away. Now that was what sort of had me fall in love with the national team. That's why I've always loved them, because that tournament was just unbelievable. That qualifying. How would this team do against that team? I think that's a really interesting dilemma.
That's a cracking,
because that was a brilliant team. I think now maybe we've got some individuals that might be better, but that is a team. They were so well organised and well knit, and they took big results as well.
I look at that team through rose-tinted specs. That's the issue, because I was there in France for that game, so it's easily like, don't tell the wife, best day of my life. I think this team we have now beats that team.
Yeah,
I know that's a bit of a bold shout, but when you look at that team, we were so reliant on McFadden. Unbelievably reliant on McFadden. Not just scoring goals, but creating as well.
Yeah, of course.
The fact that we had to bring Gary O'Connor off the bench and he almost sold the jerseys. I still remember shouting abuse at him half-pitched for the stands, thinking we were about to throw away
I mean, Craig Beattie scored the winner against Georgia at home. I remember he was one of the striking options. Boydie was there, Miller was there. But again, McFadden was the man, wasn't he?
We had a pretty strong defence in midfield. It's always been up front though, it's been the issue, hasn't it? We were so overly reliant on McFadden for years and years. Kenny Miller was another one that we just leaned on and didn't have any plan B.
And Naismith as well after that
coming through. So it's nice to actually have decent attacking options now.
The McFadden thing's interesting because I think we were getting a little bit close to McGinn being very much our James McFadden. Now, that is an absolute compliment to John McGinn, but the negative connotation of that is what you've mentioned, is we were over-reliant on McFadden. And I think, certainly McLeish's reign and early on in Clark's tenure, we were over-reliant on John McGinn. Whereas now I don't think we have to. I think John McGinn could have a quiet game on Monday and I still think we could win. Whereas that would have been an unthinkable notion maybe a year ago.
They don't yet. We do have some striker depth. I didn't say loads of it. Bear in mind, we've got an Australian and an Englishman up front.
Yeah, but this is I understand. I wouldn't. It's not even the fact that I don't think anybody's trying to claim we've got great depth and we've got an abundance of world-class strikers.
Better than what it was.
I think exactly. That's the main thing. You go back 2 years ago. The situation wasn't great. We were very reliant on Griffiths for a long time, if I remember. And now we've actually got good conversations.
And relying on Lee Griffiths is a fucking disaster.
Yes, exactly. There's no one worse to rely on. Trust me, I know.
But see, if the Euros had gone ahead as scheduled last year, Stephen Naismith would have been the starting striker for Scotland at the major tournament. That's how mental this is when we think about it. It would have been Stephen Naismith. That's how mental it is and how far we've come. Also, just because we're talking about depth and improvement in depth, the fact that we have discussions to have at centre half as well is absolutely mental. Because for so long we couldn't find 2 good ones. Now we've got 3 to cram in, and we've got 5 or 6 to pick from. It's unbelievable the way Clark has turned this squad around. It really is.
He's done a fantastic job, hasn't he?
He has done an unbelievable job.
This tournament, he's staying on post. I think that's pretty certain. Jack Henry's transformation is something. Who would have predicted that last summer?
Yeah,
the fact that he's now
certainly not me. I'll tell you that for nothing.
But I think he's guaranteed a spot.
I agree. Much. Nailed on to start.
Him and Tierney seem to be the outside centre backs. The only issue is Cooper or Hanley in the middle.
Again, both of them are good choices. It's not.
Do you know what? Do I hear something? Do I hear something interesting? I honestly never knew until yesterday that Liam Cooper is not Scottish. He's one of the English boys. I never knew that till yesterday. Honestly. They were ready to start the interview in the BBC. It was Ailey Barber. So I'm now joined by Liam Cooper. And I was sitting there expecting the most scheme accent or something I've ever heard. Just thick Glaswegian accent. Honestly, just sitting expecting it. And then he breaks out his whole accent. I was like, what? I was stunned. I never knew that. Honestly. Absolutely stunned.
He does look like a boy to have a scheme voice, doesn't he?
Aye, I was honestly big Glaswegian. I was ready for it. I was like, here we go. This is it.
If you think about the boys in the squad that weren't born in Scotland, so you've got McTominay, Dykes, Adams, and Cooper. They're arguably 3 of our most passionate players for this. Scott McTominay especially. You saw how much it meant to him in Serbia. Dykes was just in the door. You see how much it means to him. We've gone from having Scottish players who didn't want to play for Scotland to guys who are not born in Scotland dying for the shirt. It's just unbelievable.
McTominay gets half his star. He's a big Celtic man. He gets half his star.
I'm pretty sure his dad followed Scotland home and away as well and has done for years. So it's very much something he's passionate about.
Glenroy, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, mate, but if Scott McKenna sees the field in this tournament, we are not progressing out of the group stage.
I'm glad somebody speaks sense, Mozza. Thank you very much.
It's my one kind of really strong opinion about this squad that McKenna's just rubbish. Like,
see again, 18 months ago, he would probably have been our starting centre half.
He's lost his spot. Long. Yeah, but the issue I've got with him, I gave him a chance in the friendly, and he came on against the Dutch, and suddenly we looked at 6s and 7s all over the shop. Yeah. And there's no coincidence, because he just gets flustered so easily. When he was coming through at Aberdeen, you thought, we've got a player here, and he's not really kicked on. So
I don't think so either. I
think he needs another year or two at Forest, and hopefully he can do what Jack Henry's done and kind of find himself as a player, because, I'm not a fan. I'm sorry to tell you, Glenroy. I know you're a big fan of him, given that you're a Forest fan.
He's holding on to that song about a minute. He's the size of a fridge freezer and all the rest of it.
That Aberdeen Cup final song. That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. That's fantastic.
There's a point there. Neil Tierney wasn't born in Scotland.
That's right,
he's Manx, isn't he? Isle of Man.
Isle of Man, that's right. Aye. Granted, he's I think he moved to Glasgow pretty young, didn't he? I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Aye, but he was born in Isle of Man, that's right.
Right. Here's a question. How many points are we predicting for us?
9.
Not a hesitation.
You see me laughing?
He's
not a
dead
hesitation.
serious, by the way.
Yeah, according to him, we're winning it. So if we're winning it, we're winning
Listen,
it.
I think we'll get 4 at least.
Yeah, I'm with 4 as well.
4's mine.
4 will be enough as well.
I reckon we'll get a draw against England. But just putting that out there as well.
I reckon. Do you know what? Here's the shocker. We're going to drop points against the Czech Republic. Oh no! We're going to pump England. We're going to pump them. That's what we're going to do.
Pretty much in this boat as well. I think we might drop points against the Czechs. I really do, and I think and everyone will write us off straight away.
Well, there you go. Glenroy's came back on McKenna. I can only go with I've seen a Forest shirt and he had a steady season, injury prone. No, he's always had wee knocks and niggles. I think he's still got one just now as well. But no, I'm just not a massive fan of him, in all honesty. He's kind of taken that position away for Grant Hanley, who I've slightly given another chance to now.
He's actually been very good since he came back.
Here's a point, Mozza. How do you think I feel when every summer before he went to Nottingham Forest, it was like Scott McKenna linked with Celtic? I was like, oh, dear.
Because that would have been another Aston Villa poaching your player at one point before he turned them down, wouldn't it? McKenna. But let's not rub salt in the wind too much. Fleck is turning into Barry Bannon. That's an outstanding shout. He's always
that's disrespectful to Barry Bannon, by the way. I like Barry Bannon. I always had a really soft spot for Barry Bannon.
I was about to say, I feel like you've said this to me before. Do you know have something
I always quite
Barry
liked
Bannon?
him. I always thought he did a decent job for Scotland. He was always the whipping boy, though, constantly. Whereas John Fleck is not as good as Barry Bannon.
I think it's his name, Barry Bannon. It's just
he missed a penalty one time. I can't remember who it was against, and he took absolute pelters for it. But you remember that run with Strachan where we beat Slovakia at Hampden? Yep. He was unbelievable that night. He was fantastic. And I remember pre-match, the team sheets, everyone slaughtering the fact that Barry Bannon played, and he was absolutely fantastic. Always a soft up for him.
Catherine, I'll try and slow down slightly for you. I think it would only be good Portuguese chat we'll have in here. I think yesterday somebody pegged Portugal as a favourite. So
I've got money on them.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Portugal are going to disappoint everybody.
Did you see that guy on Twitter last night who put out his predictions on TikTok and he had Portugal bottom of the group?
Tom Garrett.
I saw that.
Tom Garrett.
Don't get me.
He had Scotland at the bottom as well, didn't he?
Yeah, but he never even talked about that. He just put it in and thought we wouldn't notice.
I'm not going to get started on my thoughts of this man because it'll turn into an hour show in itself, and by the end of it we might have some beef. So I'll just leave my thoughts.
I just can't wait for TalkSport to start. Oh, Scotland's finishing bottom, and I'll
tell you what. Here's something on TalkSport. About 6 months ago, I blocked every TalkSport channel on Twitter, and it's made my life so much better. Honest to God, I just went and blocked the whole lot of them because it was just utter shite they were coming out with.
That's such a good idea, actually.
And Open Goal almost got blocked as well for having Jamie O'Hara on, but I've let them off just about.
What's that about? We need to
It
talk
is
about
That's
that.
shocking.
We
Absolutely
need to talk
shocking.
about that. Just
It's very just. I know. You know, we live in a world where the more clicks you get, the better you're doing. You know, that's what matters. But at the end of the day, Christ.
They were on that Scotland HQ live stream yesterday, and they're all talking about how great a guy he was, and I knew that was coming. You know, I sound like I know that having a Scottish football podcast and going for open goal here is a bit mental because obviously I'm a big fan. I love open goal, and actually when we do our shows, we often talk them up and bring up things they've done in their show. But having him on is just fucking nonsense. The guy talks utter shit about our product, and it does my head in.
You just had to look at their Twitter replies though. Like everyone that loves them was just like, "What are you doing?"
I know. I thought they would have learned actually, but you know, money talks, bullshit walks.
So they've given O'Hara a platform to spout his nonsense, and they only challenged him in one thing, and that was his Bournemouth.
This is almost like when James English gave Tommy Robinson a platform in his podcast. It's almost as bad as that, but not quite.
Nice, we're going for everybody here. So I went for Tom Garrett, you went for open goal, and now you're going for who now? Sorry, you just went for there. James English. So there you go. Aye, Christ. Don't invite us on again, Mozza. You might not ever get back in there.
And Mozza's the worst because he's giving you a platform, fuck's sake.
TalkSport is the radio equivalent of a hot tub stream. It's an interesting take.
Am I just an idiot? What's a hot tub stream? Like,
he's not a Twitch man, bear in mind, he's mere YouTube.
Maybe a YouTube
just because
man,
Twitch has been taken over by the
that's right, they sit in I've seen them before, they just sit in a hot tub. What's that about?
You've seen them, have you?
Well, do you know where I've
Tier
seen
3
them?
Amaranth.
Is that Mozza Plays After Dark? Is that what that is?
I've seen them on TikTok. A bash room.
Oh, here we go, the wink wink.
Tells you everything you need to know about his TikTok algorithm, I have to say.
Nice save. And I'll absolutely not be doing a hot tub stream if we get through. You can get an idea.
You might not be, but make sure to come over to Talk Scottish Football where we will be doing a hot tub stream.
I was just going to say, because has anybody made, I know Ryan's made a bold sort of thing he will do if Scotland beat England. Are you not getting Phil Foden's hair if Scotland beat England?
I said if England win the Euros, I will get the
Phil Foden hair. Well, I know a few
Euros,
boys that have said if Scotland beat England, they'll get Lyndon Dykes' hair, so that'll be interesting.
I've not made a bold prediction. A bold promise yet. Which is
probably should do something. But yeah. The fact, again, all these things are just so surreal that we're even involved. I'm so happy.
I mean, I think the only promise I made was if we get to the knockouts, we'll do watch-alongs. Or at least one watch-along at our game.
We did one for the Austria game, and they do really, really well. People tend to enjoy them. So even watching back for your reactions, people love. So.
Well, my reaction was to get in that Scotland compilation video for when we beat Serbia, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I only found out about that on the day when my phone lit up and went mental.
That's mad, isn't it, though? Like, it's crazy just to be involved in wee things like that. It makes it even more surreal, doesn't it?
It's brilliant. Love it. Like, I think they've got the social media game bang on. And the brilliant.
By the way, the national team social media team deserves so much credit. Everything they've done over the past 8 months has been tremendous. It's just the post-Serbia content. Last night I went back and watched every bit of post-Serbia content I can get. And if this team get pumped in all 3 games, I will still love every single one of them a bit. Because that night will always have that. That was just unbelievable. But yeah, the social media team is fantastic.
And like, just obviously it's easy enough to get us happy because we're first major tournament appearance in 23 years, but it's the little things like the squad announcement video was done brilliant, I thought, as well.
Tim Leishman was in it. That's all you need to know.
That was it, and the meatball supper.
That was class. And you can tell it's like it's pure like it's like we haven't made a national tournament in 23 years. Like you can tell they're proper, just doing everything they can.
You're getting a bunch of schoolmates to shout Grant Hanley. I mean, who comes up with that? It's just tremendous.
By the way, we have ran over time. Sign
of a good show.
Sign of a good show, hopefully. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching as much as that's flown by from you guys.
Yeah,
that was brilliant.
I enjoyed that.
Really good. I enjoyed. You know what? It's class because I always keep saying this. And it's the reason I want to like expand on my own channel. I love getting able to talk about other countries, other players. I would talk about it with my mates, and I don't talk on YouTube. I love it, so I've really enjoyed it, Mozza, mate. Cheers.
Well, thanks very much, both of you, for coming on. Not just Ryan, obviously. I don't know how we've managed to get through over an hour without a single Kevin Nisbet mention if David done there.
Listen, he will do the business. He will score. There you go. He will
He
score.
the
He
winner
will score.
against
There's the
England
prediction.
and David Size.
No. He'll score the fourth against England. Just put the icing on the cake.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
And I should probably say thank you for the follows because they've not shown up in the stream as we've gone. So Connor Airhead, brilliant name. Dean McDonald, thanks. Glenroy, Doppelcorn, and Dang. Thank you very much, guys. But I will be back in 2 minutes because it's now change over to FM time. You can see me mess up another country's fate. But
You did it right with Wales, by the way.
I did.
I know,
That's
aye.
my high point. It's all downhill for there though. That was it.
I know.
Like, I genuinely don't know what happened. That's the absolute loss that you probably saw.
Yeah.
But aye, thank you very much again. If you've not done so already, get Talking Sport. Talk Scottish football. I
Talk
said
sport.
Dearie me.
Oh,
They are not Talk Sport. They're miles ahead of that. Talk Scottish football. Get them subscribed on YouTube because they're pushing for 5k now.
We are indeed.
Yes.
And even if they won't say so, I'll say it. They're going to get it before the new season.
That's
So
great.
it's a prediction.
Well, I mean, we're going to be going viral when we create our Euro winning compilation. You know,
Oh, yes, of course.
that's how we're going
That's just
viral.
true.
Aye.
We're doing a sing song. Is that what we'll do if we win it? We get a sing song. We
listen,
all do.
Aye.
We'll do a
Get the
sing song anyway.
I'll just get the karaoke machine out and start going for it for there.
Trust me, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Bye. I will see you on the other side in 2 minutes, folks. Thanks very much for joining us and enjoy your game today. Catch you later.